I'm going to explain to you a few tactics and procedures of true Ninpo or Ninjutsu. This, first of all, is I'm wearing this as an example to explain something. When you'd wear this, it would be covered in antibiotics. That way, if you got a cut or something, you could tie it around it and it would heal. You don't wear all black. Depending on the environment and the time of day or night, usually navy blue is the perfect color to go out at nighttime and do what you need to do, because it screws with the human eyes. If you're in the woods, it would be a dark, dark green, or multiple shades of green. Ninjutsu, by today's standards, would be terrorism. You have to understand that the techniques employed by Ninpo are bottom of the barrel. Basically, they were the militia of their time. They were regular farmers and peasants, the vast majority of them. Some of them were samurai, but they were people pushed into a corner by their government, and they were being oppressed and basically just cornholed. Um, Tactics like kidnapping someone's children and torturing their children to the point where that person in power would make a dumb mistake, or they would concede to demands. They would set fire to buildings in order to make a message to the regime. So when they'd send their troops out, they would infiltrate the castle and take over the position and say, hey, we've got the leader, you know, give in to the demands of the person who hired us, or bad things happen. By today's standards, they'd be considered terrorists. But you have to understand the mindset that a Ninpo drills in. When you're pushed into a corner, or when good people are being oppressed, you have to come out of the woodwork and do what needs to be done, regardless of who likes it or who doesn't. It's a matter of right and wrong. It's wrong for people to be oppressed. It's wrong for people to be pushed around and bullied. And when someone has a particular skill set or knowledge or inner workings of tactics and techniques, um, it's only right for that to go out for hire, because you have to have clothing and food and shelter. And whether it's money or barter, these techniques are easily employed, but they take years and years of practice and live drills, if you will. It's easy in theory to outrun a series of well-trained soldiers and employ guerrilla warfare to remove them one by one. But to actually do this is a whole nother uh, exercise. To avoid police looking for someone, which would be the samurai or whatever, it's a lot easier said than done. It's easily done. It's just a matter of how. It's a matter of how you do it. These are tactics that aren't respected nowadays. However, they're taught across the world. They're taught to elite special forces, tier 1 people. They were taught in basic, because I can't say rudimentarily, I guess, to us in airborne. SEER training, SERE, is the tactics come from old world shinobi type people. The tactics work extremely well. They're not pretty. They're not friendly. It's not something you're gonna do, and be like, "Oh, look what I did! I'm so happy about myself." You're gonna feel guilty afterwards. But when it comes down to your survival or the survival of your people, or helping someone who's being subjugated or bullied, um, I'm not condoning murder or assassination or hostage taking or damaging property in any way. There's no There's nothing in what I'm saying that's saying this is good, this is acceptable. Now, with that said, there's a time and a place for everything. And when people are pushing, good people around, criminals, okay? And by criminals, I mean people who are harming people who are trying to do good. I'm not specifically talking about gangbangers and the wanksters nowadays, because there's no real gangbangers anymore. They're all little wannabe thugs. Every one of them, from cartel to Crips, they're just worthless little kids who want to pitch a temper tantrum. And their violence is so feared that it's more up here. They're not really that dangerous. By criminal, I mean anyone who's harming someone who's minding their own business and trying to do good. And that's a very broad spectrum, but that's criminal means someone, leave it alone. Criminal means someone who's doing damage to the greater good. I mean, in its most simplest form, that's what a criminal is. People like that, drastic times call for drastic measures, and pretty much anything is acceptable. There is collateral damage. These are not tactics that are widely accepted. They're not things that are generally looked upon by the masses as positive. Yet when it comes down to the greater good, forcing someone's hand into a failed decision or flawed decision by pressuring them and stressing them and causing them to get confused, those tactics are extremely effective, and they minimize, if done correctly, the collateral damage or the possibility of other people getting hurt. That is Ninpo. That is the way of shinobi. It's taken me 20 years of study and practice, and a lot of it has been live practice. I've done a lot of things I'm not proud of, but in the name of training and those who trained me, it works. And, for the most part, no one's gotten hurt. But when it comes down to criminals and thugs, there are certain things that I've been a part of, and removing them as threats from society that are extremely effective. I mean, highly effective. And they're not the brightest. So pulling one into an alley and neutralizing that threat, or putting the fear of God into them, is not that difficult. It's actually quite easy to accomplish, and it's an acceptable thing. You have to understand that the police and so on and so forth, their hands are pretty much tied. I mean, there's only so much they can do. The legal system isn't about what you know or about right and wrong, it's about what you can prove. Well, right and wrong goes right out the window when you can prove one thing despite the fact that may not be the case. That said, those interested in learning ninjutsu or ninpo or the way of shinobi, when it comes down to stealth, evasion, elimination of threats, causing sway one way or the other to achieve a goal, these things take a high intellect, a firm grasp of right, wrong, and what's acceptable and what's not, socially as well as morally. You have to understand, you have to blend in public, but when you're doing something, you have to be unnoticed. So, picture, if you will, you're in a crowded supermarket, and you hear someone threatening someone from across the store. Well, I'm not saying this is acceptable. What I'm saying is, imagine trying to subdue or remove that threat by any means necessary, but still not having the public eye notice you. Imagine doing it so quickly that the cameras can't process your movements. It looks like you just walked past them. Well, they're on the ground now. And by the time you've left the front door, there's blood pooling, either within the body or on the floor. These are the techniques and the tactics that ninjutsu employs. Movement so quick that no one even noticed what happened until you're gone. That takes patience. That takes lots and lots of training. Guns, any idiot can use a gun. You can take anyone out and have them fire a couple hundred rounds, and they're going to be a marksman. It's not hard. But to have someone be able to use their hands, or use a blade, or use a syringe, or use a rope, even this is a weapon. There are 4 to 5 different ways I can use this to kill or restrain or just generally distract an enemy for a bigger attack. And this is nothing more than a condor, tactical wrap, which again, it's just a turtleneck basically, but that's beside the point. These are the tactics ninjutsu employs. These are the things that I don't know what a lot of dojos teach. I don't know what Bunjikan actually teaches. I know what my teacher taught me. And I know what I continue to practice every day that I wake up. Six-pack abs and ripped back muscles are not part of ninjutsu. That's irrelevant. The ability to move fast, silently, and effectively are held high on the level of tactics. Agility, coordination, intellect, these are things that have to be present. I'm 5'7", 212 pounds, and I can still do a lot of things that some of these Taekwondo guys and Capoeira people, who are a $180 and ripped, are incapable of doing when it comes down to physical combat. For display purposes, there are a lot of flashy martial arts. Ninjutsu has developed many flashy techniques in order to draw people into the ranks to teach them. It's actually become an XMA, or an extreme martial art, because of its super flashy cool moves and stuff. But when you think about a simple ninjutsu tactic called climbing the mountain, it's a technique. You'll be holding a knife or something in your hand, both hands, and it only sticks out about this far. Okay, it can stick out as far as you want, and you're like this. You come down, you hit the inside of the knee, the outside of the thigh, the inside of the stomach, the groin, the chest, and then the throat. So essentially, you've pierced this person in 7 or 8 places in under a second. Really quick, just like that. Well, needless to say, it's gory, it's bloody, but guess what? The threat's gone. And if you've got a 2-inch blade sticking out, it doesn't matter if the person's wearing body armor. It doesn't matter if the person's, holding a gun. It doesn't matter if the person is built like a brick shithouse. These techniques work. They're brutal. There's no sport application. It's the original Krav Maga. I mean, it's simple. It's simple, to the point, cut and dry, but it takes a lot of this to use it. And with that said, these are just some enlightening points of ninjutsu. I'll make some more videos later on displaying techniques. You can practice things, simple things, rolling your hands like this, and you get faster, and you go into counter. Bum, 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 bum. They look flashy, like, oh, there's no way that'll work. These techniques have worked in street fights against 2, 3, 4 attackers. I'm not condoning violence. I hate violence. I think it should all be avoided. I think we should be able to have an intellectual discourse to fix our problems. Unfortunately, there are many, 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 many more people than not who want to throw down rather than have an oral discussion. But these are primates that haven't ever evolved. They're just a step above, gorillas beating each other in the jungle. And the sooner those people are gone, the better. The sooner they're not allowed to mass produce their seed, the better. But that's political semantics, and that's another story. Because the laws are being designed now to protect these people and their right to propagate their ignorance. And those are the type of things ninjutsu stands against. Ninjutsu is a very spiritual, and it's a pagan in origin martial art. Communing with nature, the water, the trees, the grass, relying on these things for your survival. If you don't respect nature and its inherent power, you're gonna die. You can put me in the woods, and I can elude people for days and days and days. And if they're trying to kill me or apprehend me, I can remove them one by one until basically, one person has defeated 5 or 600. That's ninjutsu. So picture 8 to 9 practitioners of ninjutsu at a higher level, and 1,000 people coming after them. Yeah, that 1,000 people are gone. It's guerrilla warfare at its best. And it's not pretty. It's not friendly. It's not. No, stop, don't, please. It's not pulling out a gun and shooting someone. It's deceitful, underhanded, dirty fighting at its best. And it's 100% efficient. It's not for everyone. It's some fucked up shit, but once you learn it and you realize the way it's intended to be used to protect the greater good and to, help the underdog and save the people that are being oppressed, you can understand and appreciate the finer qualities of the savagery therein. Well, again, like I said, later I'll be making some videos displaying some techniques. But until then, God's bless and have fun and be safe.